Yeah.
So tell us more about this this article you're reading this morning that triggered quite an interesting discussion before we got on air today.
So yeah, this is a very interesting article that Mark Manson just released that I think he's been working on for quite a while. Mark Manson is one of my favorite authors of all time. He's written probably my top 2-3 books in history. The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck and Everything is Fucked. Really, really good books, highly recommended. But this specific article was with regard to social media and the impact it has on mental health and how sort of overblown and convoluted the ideas about social media have been over the last few years, especially with claims like social media is just horrible for anxiety and depression. Social media is like, is just tearing up. People don't know how to communicate anymore. It's causing all these issues. And then obviously that big Netflix documentary with the social dilemma, that's what it was called, right? Did you guys watch that?
Yeah.
Ever watch it? Yeah. Fantastic dramatization. No evidence, no research, no actual papers sort of back all these things that they were saying. A lot of it was just, again, fear mongering and creating these sort of Black Mirror type stories, which are exciting to watch and very, very dramatic, but very little substance. And then when you actually do dive into the research and you see the correlations that you do see with anxiety, depression, and social media, they're not causative factors. This is the whole epidemiology stuff that we've been speaking about with regards to, red meat causes cancer or this X thing causes cancer. When it's way too hard to research those variables in such a multifactorial place. All you can pick is correlation. So you'll see people that do tend to scroll through social media and go to social media a lot also tend to be anxious and depressed on the whole. But it's a very different thing to say social media causes anxiety and causes depression. So that's just like literally the tip of the iceberg of what he discusses. But I recommend everyone read the article. I think it's called Social Media Isn't the Problem, We Are, by Mark Manson. And it just goes into a lot of the nuance there, and I think people would probably get a lot of benefit out of it. But as I was reading it, these are things that we've sort of touched on before with regards to social media isn't the issue. It's sort of how you use social media and the impact it has on you. We were just talking off air, like if I saw a specific thing that I wanted to work towards on social media, and if I never had social media, I would never have seen it. I never would have thought it was possible to do. And I took that as inspiration to then start working towards that. So I used that social media as a way to inspire my own training or inspire my own life in a positive way. It wasn't me being like, oh, why does that person do that and I can't do that? Poor me, I'm gonna just go cry in a pillow. No, it's how you use that social media, and you can either use it for good or you can use it to continue your already existing anxiety and depression. But to say that it's the cause or it's this big tech thing that's just going to destroy us all is a massive stretch. Sorry, a bit of a ramble.
Yeah, that's very interesting. I'll have to read the article in full to comment on the tech stuff. But in terms of I think we should definitely touch on the psychological element for sure, because what would be interesting to know is what are the differences in someone who can go on social media and feel completely fine and use social media, and the other ones that feel worse than when they got on social media, than when they got into it. What are the characteristic traits, but also what can someone do to improve their relationship with social media? Because I think in this day and age, network effects mean that things like social media are always better with more people, right? They're always better with your friends. It's like saying to you guys, all right, I'm going to go off WhatsApp now and I'm going to go on something else. That might be an idea, but it's not going to work if everyone else doesn't follow you on it, right? Because you can't actually use that app. So I can't see social media going anywhere. How can you rewire your mindset to approach it in a better way so you don't feel worse than when you clicked on the button?
Well, I think it really depends on what you're going to social media for, and whether you are going for it for access to experts in certain areas for education, potentially, for inspiration. Like Ivan said, he saw someone performing gymnastics kind of movement or exercise or trick, whatever you guys call it in your circles. And
strength move.
Sorry, technical strength movement performance. He saw something that which obviously inspired him, but also showed him more that was out there. But I would have thought that most people who are struggling with social media aren't going onto it for that. They're going to it for confirmation of themselves by putting up endless selfies or whatever, or making sure that other people are doing the same things as them, seeing what clothes they need to wear, where they need to go, to match these certain influences. And so I think that the approach you take when you sign onto that app or you click onto it is ultimately going to determine what you then go onto, and then how that's going to then be received mentally.
Yeah, and I think the beauty of it is you can filter it now these days. Like, you can make your social media feed as fantastic or as horrible as you want it to be. So, for example, the only people that I follow, or whatever that term is people that give me education, or who I know. Okay, I know that when these people post something, they're going to teach me something, or they're going to try to teach me something. So, because I value education, I value being up to date with research, and I follow people who do also have their head in the trenches and who are doing similar things to what we're doing, or trying to push that same message across, right? So most of my feed on Facebook as well that's pretty much all I see, which is, and I've filtered it in that way, and where I've either muted people that are just posting things that don't really contribute to my own benefit of using social media. Like, I don't go on social media to see what other people are doing. Again, I don't go on social media to see where people have gone on vacation. Don't really care. I'll go on social media to, again, learn and find ways for me to use that platform to be better. That's my use of social media, which is still very, very limited anyway. But I try not to have, even if I was to have beautiful people in my feed or whatnot, it's not triggering. Like, it's no big deal. It's just, it is what it is. Fantastic, they're living their life. But at the end of the day, people are always going to post their highlight reel regardless. You don't know what you're seeing on social media when it comes to that sort of thing. It's all interesting, right?
What do you think of the body dysmorphia element to it? Because that's something that you get hear spoken about a lot in that social media, and then this is probably related to that feeds that you curate, but how your approach to body dysmorphia is. Because if you get triggered by seeing someone who's got an amazing physique, there's a body dysmorphia element that you're experiencing, or an insecurity around your body that you're experiencing. How much does that tie into all of this? And what have been your own body dysmorphia experiences, if at all? Because I've got my own, and I can share that after, but what have been some of yours that you've had over the years?
I think, like I was just saying before I go on, if you flick through my feed or whatever, it's basically just topless guys, all of it. So there's and all of them have better physique than me. But I personally find that doesn't trigger me at all. And I think when you were just saying that, where you said there was kind of potentially underlying issues yourself, and body dysmorphia may be a factor in some people, but I think a lot of the time you got to ask yourself, why would someone being in better shape upset you? And I think that's basically the route that a lot of people would need to then go down, because ultimately, if we go for a kick around the park, Cristiano Ronaldo walks past, I wouldn't get really angry that there's a better footballer in the park than me. It doesn't annoy me that Gordon Ramsay makes his dinner nicer than me, like stuff like that. And I know it sounds stupid, but unless you think in your head that you have the best physique in the world, then you know that there'll be better physiques out there. So I think why would someone being better upset you? I think is how I'd probably start thinking about it.
I think with that example though, you got to remember that with the physique world, someone could literally just walk down the street who's never trained, never lifted a weight, never even heard of the word diet, and looks better than you, yet you've been putting in 5, 10, 15 years of work into your own physique, and they just walk past and you see them drinking a beer, eating a burger, and they look better than you. I think because that's probably where people get those ideas from with the physique side of things, because it's like, you know, there is a huge genetic component with how some of these people can look, and some people can just look fantastic, and you may seem, if you're wired a certain way, you may look at that and go, that's so unjust, that's so unfair, I should be that, look how hard I work, or so you think you do. But the thing is, what people don't see is that a lot of components in life are like that too. Intelligence is one of those things. You know, we've all met those people who didn't have to study, right? And they just get 100% on their test because they paid attention for like 1 hour. You know, it's like there are people in this world who just have very, very blessed genetically in certain aspects. But for some reason, there seems to be this fixation on physiques. Or people look at physiques in a bit of a different way. They get triggered by someone looking amazing, but I'm sure they wouldn't get triggered about someone being like smarter than them or what have you. I don't know. Have you guys seen similar things? It's a weird dichotomy, but maybe because we're in the fitness industry, that's what we see.
Well, you also get like people that see people that are perceived to be more successful, or perceived to live better lives, or perceived to have a nicer partner, or perceived to go on better holidays. So I think it works in every domain of your life.
Yeah.
We probably just see it, you know, in the fitness, like in the body world. But I think that there's all aspects to it. It's like the perception of better. I wrote an article for Reflex a couple of weeks ago for mental health, and it was all about this. It was all around like dysmorphia and comparison syndrome. Because my own experience with it was, when I was growing up, I was reading all the Arnold stuff from back in the day, and that stuff didn't trigger me. That just inspired me, right? I was thinking that this is amazing. And then, you know, you go to the hardcore bodybuilding gyms, you see all these like really jacked guys, and I'm like, this is the place to be. This is a great place to work towards. But it was like, I remember my sort of dysmorphia stage kicked in when I got told, I need to be 85 kilos ripped in order to be a good personal trainer. And
not ripped. Shredded.
Yeah, shredded. and I remember thinking, and this was me, like, I'm like 70, I was like 75 kilos, not shredded. And I was thinking, that's a long way to go. But I didn't know what the connotations were. I didn't know what that meant to get there. And I spent a long time thinking, quite naively, that I need to get there. And I used to compare myself to people that were potentially there, were beyond that. And that used to drive me into paralysis by analysis, constant comparison, you know, constantly analyzing other guys in the gym, thinking, why are they bigger than me? It was only when I educated myself and understood what that request really meant, that obviously steroids and going on gear, and I understood like the difference between gear, understood like natural potential, you know, how heavy will you be when you're lean, these sorts of things. Just educated me on what was actually realistic. And then it became more of a journey of you versus, you know, trying to compare against someone else. But my own experience with it was a tough cycle to break, because I just didn't know any better. I didn't understand what really went into physiques, what natural potential really was. And until I educated myself on that, I was stuck in that loop of constantly thinking, I need to be better. Should I try steroids? Should I try this? Or should I try this extra supplement because it might help me, etc. And I know a few guys have been down this rabbit hole as well, but it's not an easy one to get out of. But once you do get out of it, then you're like, what was I even thinking? Because, you know, now I look at physiques and I'm like, okay, that's cool. Like, they've worked hard. They're doing this. I'm not doing that. So it's not fair comparison anyway. If I see someone who's natural and amazing, I'm like, that guy's putting a lot of work and he's done something that I'm probably not willing to do. But that's another thing. It's like, it's understanding what your own sacrifice level is as well. If you don't, like, for example, Ivan, when I see your splits videos, I'm like, this guy's doing amazing stuff. I'm not sitting there thinking, why can't I do that? Because I'm not willing to do what you're doing for that. I know the work that you do. So I'm like, I don't want to do that work. So why should I bother even trying to compare myself? And I remember reading something about envy the other day, and they're saying, like, when you start thinking about envy and you start comparing yourself or thinking jealousy, just think to yourself, well, do you want to have his whole life or his or her whole life? Mm-hmm. And when you're like, actually, I don't want their whole life. I don't, like, let's say you got someone who's rich and famous. So do I want to be in the spotlight all the time? Do I want to be, you know, every paparazzi following everywhere? No, I don't. So when you start thinking about it that way, it can make a big difference. And similar, right back to your example. Do I want to be spending hours and hours doing gymnastics? No. So I'm okay with not having that skill set. But that it's a very weird example, but it's probably an easy one to relate.
No, it's a perfect example. No, but it's great, and I think it comes from education too, because you've worked hard in and another example would be in your situation to run to be like the head of this amazing company that we work for. It's like I don't want to do what Akash does on that level, because that's just too much. You know, I don't want that. I want to be doing what I'm doing, and I'm happy to accept that. Because if I did want to do everything that you wanted to do, I'd be like, well, I'll just do my own RNT. But I don't want to do that. I want to, you know what I mean? So it's that it works in all avenues, and that would be like me going, well, why can't I do what AV does? Because I'm not willing to do what AV does, and I'm happy to accept that. You know, and that means I'm happy. Obviously, I'm very happy doing what I'm doing, but it's that same example, right? I'm not going to get envious or jealous of that to be like, oh, why can't I work as hard as AV? So no, AV works super hard in that. We all have our thing that we work really super hard in. And I think that is why I don't think we have that envy for certain things, because we have our own thing that we're working towards, right? And we understand the effort required that goes into something. And that's why we look at things in admiration. Like I'm always looking at things, even if it's not gym related, if it's like even like chest related, or even just people escaping North Korea. I've been getting really into that recently, and I find that incredible. You know what I mean? Like I find that like inspiring to be like how people can be so strong-minded to be able to get themselves out of those situations. Like literally, what we do is child's play compared to what some people have done to just survive. You know, so it's like, I don't look at that and go, oh, why are they mentally stronger than me? That's why. No, it's just like you know what I mean? You admire that because you understand. So I think what you just said earlier was bang on. When you learnt, your sort of body dysmorphia and your ideas around that disappeared once you started educating yourself. So education was the key for you to eventually get over these weird and wacky ideas.
It's like when I see guys in the gym and they look really lean all the time. I'm like, and they're not massively big, they're just really lean. I'm like, okay, cool. They've just sacrificed certain elements of their nutrition, and they probably just expend a lot more energy than I do, and I'm willing to do every day. So it's like, that's cool. And again, I'll probably use that with you as well. Like you're staying leaner because you like being that lean. It's not, I know I can get there, but I don't want to stay there because I don't want to make that sacrifice. And that's completely fine. But people could think, oh yeah, Ivan's got that amazing physique. He's so shredded and he's so lean all the time. Why am I like that? Yeah, because you don't want to do that lifestyle. You don't want to live like Ivan.
Yeah, no one does.
I think that's one of the biggest things, because I think so often people do come with these body ideas or goals, and they can achieve, a lot of the time it's physically as possible, but it's just, do you really want to commit to doing what's required? And that's where it links so well into social media, because you can have that after photo or whatever it is what gets posted, of Ivan looking really lean or doing this amazing trick, but the stuff that doesn't get posted, strength movement. Didn't even mean to do that. But what you miss is all of the time when you're doing the cardio at 5 a.m, you're doing all of these sessions when potentially you're feeling tired. All of these, those are the things that don't get seen. And so it's just, as we've kind of already said, is educating yourself that those are things that get you that thing that gets shown in the photo. But this is why it's so important to understand what you actually want from this journey. And I think I was saying to someone last night over dinner, and he was asking about, he was like, oh, you're looking bigger. And I'm like, I'm actually dropped a couple of kilos recently. And he goes, oh, okay. And then he goes, how's your year been with training? I said, it's been really good. I've held like pretty much a 2 kilo fluctuation of body weight for now about 18 months, and it's probably the longest I've stayed in one weight bracket. I've not done bulking, I've not done cutting, all these sorts of things. And I was like, for the first time probably in my whole training career, for the last 18 to 24 months, I felt like I finally cracked my body.
Like, I don't know if you guys had a similar experience, but I think only now in the last 1 to 2 years have I really cracked what works for me. And it's taken me ages to get here. And I was thinking it's literally been over 10 years to find not only the sweet spot, but just the small things you do, the small things you choose to finally, and I'm like, this is so effortless to stay at where I'm at. And I feel so good in this range, but it's taken me so long to get here, because if I look at the journey, it was like the beginning, it was always about building muscle because I was always a skinny kid. Then it was around, then I competed in bodybuilding. Then I was struggling with my relationship with food for a couple of years. Then I was like, okay, then I want to get as big as possible. And I got to 90 kilos. Then I was like, oh, let me get shredded. Then I went up to 90 kilos again. Then I was like, let me get shredded. And then since then, I've just managed to like find a sweet spot where I just feel really content in my body. I don't have ambitions to build massive amounts of muscle at the moment. And I don't really have an ambition to also go the other way. But if I do, it would be in from a different position of like, I want to like try and prove myself or anything like that. Because I think for the first time, the last 1 to 2 years, I'd say on reflection, I finally cracked it. I don't know how long, if you guys have had a similar experience with timeframes on that, but it's taken ages when I look back. And I think this is for anyone really, to find a lifestyle solution is like a 10-year gig, isn't it? It's not
easily.
It's not even a year.
I think it's also, I think it's also very important though, because when you were saying that, I was thinking the exact same thing, because life has also evolved for you too. You've also realized there's more to life than just muscle.
Yeah.
There's more to life than just looking a certain way. You know what I mean? Like when you start to realize that, well, it's like, no matter what you look like, there are going to be people who criticize you and there are going to be people who love you. And it doesn't matter what they say. What matters is what you're happy with, right? So you probably stop living to what you think you should be looking like, which is a huge benefit, right? And then it probably also, and again, like responsibilities have, I'm sure, like quadrupled for you over the last couple of years, right? Like exponentially, where it's like you don't have time to worry about the lack of a vein in your bicep at a certain body weight. You know, you have to worry about, you know, running a successful business and, you know, being a fiance, like important things that matter in life, right? So I think again, when we look back at those times where we were potentially more obsessed with our bodies or more obsessed with other people's bodies as well, was because we had less going on in our own lives, and our attention went to those things a lot more. Because again, that's all we had.
Or it was potentially that we wrapped our identity in a certain body shape.
Yes.
And we thought that a certain body shape was what we needed to feel whole and to feel full and to feel like we were enough. Whereas now it's like, it's the reason why we do it is because we feel good and it allows us to do amazing things in every area of our life. Whereas before it was like, let me try and patch over an insecurity that I've got. I've got this insecurity. Let me solve it with physical training, get into better shape. But not actually doing the work of like, what do I actually want to do in this life, and what do I actually enjoy? And when I speak, I only literally came to this conclusion last night. I literally drove back from the dinner. I was like, of all the things we spoke about, that one bit of me just reflecting on like the 10 years was probably the most profound for me. I was like, it's literally taken that long. Because even earlier yesterday, I went to train legs, and I always train like joggers in a t-shirt and like quite a baggy t-shirt and joggers. Yesterday, I just rocked up in shorts for some reason. And I was like, and my mate saw me. I was like, why are you training in shorts today? I was like, oh, I don't know. I just forgot to get into the workout kit. And it was like, it wasn't the most flattering outfit. It was like, you know, it was like one of those weird color t-shirts that doesn't fit that well. It was a bit tighter than it should have been. And then like the shorts were just like hanging over my kneecap. It was just a weird outfit. And I was just like, I don't care. Like,
doesn't matter. Yeah.
But I think it takes a long time to get there, but you've got to, that's why we talk about, you get in shape. Getting in shape will help your mind, but it won't fix your mind. And likewise, the other way around as well. You know, you can fix your mind, but you won't get in shape. Because it works both ways, doesn't it? And if you get into shape and you're on this fitness journey, but yet you still find yourself comparing to other people, you still find yourself worrying about other people's journeys, what trackers they're doing, what things they're doing, what apps they're using, or whatever it may be, then if we circulate back to the beginning of the conversation, it's not the social media, it's you, and it's your own work that needs to be done.
I do think though, although it's probably, you know, like average out between us taking us about 10 years to get where we are, we went down all of these different rabbit holes and dead ends, and that is part of the process. Trial and error. Like, error is a part of it. But I do think that if we'd stumbled across RNT at 18 and actually engaged with it and not tried to look for these quick fixes, which,
accelerate.
Like, I think you can cut that down massively. I was just going to say, I think that's maybe where we've already said that education is the key to get beyond all of these things. But with social media, a potential issue, or I guess an issue, is that although there's so much information out there, there's no regulation on it. So as a lay person, when you're going on, even if you go on with the intention to educate yourself, how do you know where to go? Like, a blue tick doesn't mean that someone is actually legit. It just means that they're kind of famous or whatever. And so although it's all good and well saying like education is the key, but it's how would you guys advise someone to find good education on there, to make sure you are stumbling on like an RNT rather than just what I would say is
education for yourself is key here. And that doesn't, and what that means is you have to go, I think even if you can accelerate it with, for example, with RNT, even if you had access to it when you were 18 years old, you would still have to have gone through the ropes, and you still have to have gone through all the trials and tribulations, because you can only really learn it when you go through it. And I think we can teach people, but they've got to actually go out and try what works for them. And that in itself takes ages, because we didn't have RNT when we were 18, but we've seeked experts, we've paid thousands for consultations, we've paid thousands for courses, right? We've done all of the educate. We spent so much on education, and yet it still took us that long, because we have to go through our own process of learning what works for you and what do you actually feel content with. You have to understand, do you feel content at 90 kilos, or do you feel content at 70 kilos, or do you feel content someone who wants to be in the middle and train 4 times a week and walk 10,000 steps in a nice way that fits with his routine? Like, you don't know what works for you until you go through all of them for extended periods of time in each one. I think, yes, you can speed it up, but there's still like a lot of sort of trial and tribulations there, and that's the only way you can learn, and that is that then becomes your education.
100%.
We can only open the doors. We can open the different doors, right? Everyone's got to go through each door, check out what that room's like, and then come out if they think it's the wrong one for them.
And I was just thinking, guys, like, I don't think we've had any, not from my recollection, we never had any sort of applications from the 18, 19-year-old version of us to RNT. Do you know what I mean? We've always had people that have gone through the rigor, or they've just tried many things and failed, because they've tried all the stuff that we've tried to do, and then they eventually come to us. I think it's a pretty interesting observation. You know what I mean? We never get that young, really fresh out of high school being like, yeah, I just want to learn about this and this. It's like, no, you just want to get jacked, and you just want to do the things that your friend's doing, that your jacked friend did in the gym, and that's some of the stuff that we did.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, you're completely right. You have to go through that journey yourself. You have to not only read about nutrition, not only read about training, you have to do those things. And this is why we've always spoken about, action and introspection, or action and education. Those things have to come together. You have to be doing the things that you're trying to learn, and then you learn from that. Because the example that you just said there with the person who can now train 4 times a week and do 10K steps every day, I'm assuming you're talking about yourself. That's ideal for you now, but you know that in a year, 2 years, that may change.
Yeah.
A couple of years later, that may change. So that sweet spot for you has the potential to always be changing as you also progress through your training journey too.
Well, it's constantly
this is why we talk about this thing. Constantly tinkering. It's great. It's a lifelong thing, and we've discussed this before. Like this whole journey is literally forever. Especially if it's your own physical self. The longest relationship you have is with yourself. And yeah, it's always going to be that tinkering, and I think that's what keeps it so enjoyable, though. It's what keeps it so fun. It's amazing, right?
Well, speaking about that fresh high school kid, I've been helping my cousin who's actually 19, 20 for the last couple of years. Just like kind of every week, I'll just say to him, "How are you getting on?" And when he first started training, he wanted to train when he was like 17. I was like, look, don't make any of the mistakes I make. Let me just help you from the beginning. And to be fair to the guy, he's actually listened to all my advice over the years. That being said, I said to him, look, don't make the mistake I made and just keep cutting. Like, you're in the growth periods of your life. Your testosterone's through the roof, your stress levels are low. All you got to do is university. You're at university, all you need to do is eat and train, right? And yet he still has the temptation to want to go for cuts and all these things. And I'm like, all right, man, just go through it. Like, just go through the process, because he's got to understand that what the process of leaning down is, even though his ultimate goal is to build more muscle. But it's funny, like, even though I'm giving him all the sort of accelerated advice and kind of pointing him, I was like, I made that mistake. Don't do it. He's like, oh, I want to try it. I was like, all right, cool, go try it. A couple weeks later, yeah, that thing, I probably should not have done that. I probably should listen to you. And it's just the same thing that we, as humans, I think we have to go through it in order to really know if it's right or wrong for us.
Yeah, us humans are horrible that way. We have that curiosity thing, right? The grass is always greener because it's fertilized with bullshit. And we have to, even though people are telling us what we should, this is the thing, what our parents do, right? Our parents is probably giving us the right advice for years. And then we only realize that it's been right until we're like, oh, okay, probably shouldn't have done that. It's the same thing. And because, even though your cousin, he was under your tutelage, it's like, this is Akash guiding me from the young age. This is amazing. This is what we should have had when we were younger. They still get drawn in by the social media stuff. They see the lean person getting all the females and all the attention, and just life coming to that person because they're lean now. It doesn't happen. We all know that. But that's what they see. And all your advice and all your wisdom goes out the window because of that one awesome picture they saw.
It was me trying to sell him on 5 years muscle building. I was like, look, you put in 5 years now, you never have to do it again. Man. Can you imagine that? Like, if we went back and just spent 5 years muscle building.
Yeah. Yeah. In an optimal way.
Yeah.
In an optimal way, right? That would be insane.
Imagine coming out of it with no injuries, no problems with relationship with food. Like, literally, you just come out of it in the best place possible.
Yeah. Yeah.
But that's not the
but
journey.
He's tried it. He failed. He's tried it and failed. And now he's like, okay, yeah, you're right. I'm not going to make that same mistake again.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a very interesting experience with like body dysmorphia and just like social media comparison. I think the ultimate conclusion here is like the work has to be done yourself, and you might have an experience of it simply because it's the journey you're on. But over time, it will improve if you continue to do the internal work and just focus on what you actually want out of it as well in terms of physical health. When you know what you want, you don't need to feel like you're comparing to anything, right? Like, if you know what type of business you want, what type of career you want, what type of job you want, what type of partner you want, it's not gonna matter what you see elsewhere.
I think it's just getting really comfortable and just being really aware of what you're willing to put into all these areas as well. Because you can't expect to put in 10% effort in your job, but then become a CEO in 2 years. Like, you need to realize where you're really willing to, where in your life you're willing to commit to, and then what levels you're willing to commit to each thing, and then just set your targets or goals or whatever at appropriate points in relation to that. Like, if you only want to go and go to the gym for half an hour twice a week and kind of half-ass it, and that's just something that you enjoy. I know you get to see a mate and whatever, that's fine. But like, don't think you're stepping on the Olympia stage in 2 years' time. And that's obviously like a stupid example, but it's just, that's the kind of thing we need. Everyone has these amazing goals, but unless what you're willing to do matches them, they're stupid. And that's going to be the same for work, your family, your health, everything.
Yeah, that's a great point.
This is where potentially getting off social media is useful, so then you can cut out the distractions and understand what you're all about.
What you want.
Yeah. That's probably where a lot of it actually comes from. A lot of this this movement is just that it's actually just disconnecting. If you can't disconnect from it, disconnecting from the matrix of social media, then it's only going to fuel it and make it worse. But you need to take back control of it.
Yeah.
I think also it can be a really good way of then auditing the relationships you have in your real life as well. Because I think auditing real physical relationships is one of the hardest things of transformation potentially. You know, some people will have to remove people from their life to live the way they want, and that's, you know, that is a hard thing to do. So I think a really good step in the right direction of that is doing that on your social media, whether that's unfollowing people, if that's going to cause, you know, issues with family members or whatever. If, you know, someone like, oh, you unfollowed me or blah blah, you can just mute them. Like, you don't actually have to see any content that these people put out. So if you find that someone's triggering you or that's just not having a positive influence in your life, you can start to declutter your social media. Once that's sorted, then maybe you can then start looking at, you know, your actual physical relationships as well. But I think that's definitely a step in the right direction.
I reckon Ed just has everyone on mute on his social media.
I wouldn't be surprised.
Every other week he's always telling me, I'm mute with that person, mute with that
I wouldn't be surprised if I got like 60-70% of people I follow on mute, to be honest.
Hey Ed, did you see my post? No, I muted you, mate.
Basically, if I don't like your posts, you're on mute. But it's not even like, oh, I don't like that person. It's just, I sometimes just think,
no value.
This person's adding nothing there. Yeah. Either because it's just
doesn't make you a good or bad person. It just means that your posts have no value.
Yeah. Sometimes it's poor exercise advice. Sometimes it's just, you know, too many photos of your dog or your kid or something. I just don't care. I don't want to see it. But like, I'm still gonna, you know, and so I think it's just, if you can start to just declutter that, then your social media is there's obviously gonna be adverts pop up and blah blah, but it becomes more in your control. And it's
and even with adverts, you can hide them and then select the reasons why, and that I think anyway, it usually does work. Stopping it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
that's the thing. Like, it's not the government spying on you and trying to sell you stuff. They're trying to sell you stuff that you're looking for. That's in a way, they're trying to help you. They're trying to help you find what you've been looking for.
You got to take control of the algorithm.
Yeah, you do. Sorry, just a real quick one. I was just thinking, if you ask, you know how some of the general advice is for people to, when they're scrolling through, and if you get triggered, just delete the post or hide that person. I think a better question to potentially ask is, why are you getting triggered by that? You know, versus just deleting that person. Like, I understand, you know, if someone's just posting nonsense, that's just annoying. It's like, I'm not learning from this. I'm not being triggered by it. I'm just being annoyed by it. This is not something that's going to be useful to my life. But if something just triggers you, or you get that sense of envy, you get that sense of, oh, what's going on here? I think it's probably better that you look into that a bit more and just ask yourself, you know, why are you feeling that way? But instead of just being like, no, avoid, mute, because that's the same thing as just burying your head in the sand, right? You see something you don't like, not looking at it.
Yeah, trigger's the biggest sign of like something that you need to work on, or something you need to resolve, or something you need to face. So absolutely agree with that. And then when you can see that same thing and not feel triggered, then you know you've made progress.
Exactly. That's all I had. That's my story.
Just on the auditing relationships thing, if we just expand on that a little bit more, there's the social media aspect, and there's obviously the real life aspect of it. The other thing to consider with relationships, because sometimes it's not always logical to, like, I don't know, cut a family member out of your life or whatever, right? So I think there's ways to, like, I was speaking about with a friend the other day about managing energy versus time with them. It's like, you don't have to just look at who you spend your most energy with or most time with, but also looking at the energy, because energy is what's really drains you, right? It's not necessarily the time. And it's also looking at not just, you know, when we say like put the people you spend the most time with, but it's actually the audit really is put the people who you spend the most energy on, because you can be 1 hour with someone that can feel like 10 hours, and you can be with 10 hours with them, but that can feel like an hour, right? And I think doing that audit is a more powerful one, because I've had experiences of people where, like, you spend like 1 hour with them, and you feel like you spent 3 days, like in a 3 days in a barbarian challenge, you know?
Yep. That's a great way to look at it, actually. Yeah, energy drainers, not time drainers. Yeah, how do you feel after certain interactions? Probably a good one.
So yesterday I was at dinner, and I said the pre-qualification, I always say this, I need to be back for 10 o'clock. Because they were like, oh, let's eat at 7:30. I was like, oh, can we make it a bit earlier? I need to be back I want to be in bed by 10. What's I like it? 10:15 and I'm still there, and I'm like, I just lost track of time, right? But afterwards I was like, actually I didn't feel bad at all.
You'd probably gone through your whole 10-year story at that point, hadn't you?
Yeah.
they probably couldn't wait to get home at that point.
Yeah.
Well, that's the end of it.
Far out. I thought he said 10 o'clock and we're done. What are we still doing here?
We're still only in 2018. Got to the end of it, and I was like, I missed my bedtime. But at the same time, it flew by, and it felt great. So for me, that opportunity cost is okay, and that's a good way to look at it. If you're clock watching and you feel drained coming out of it, I was wired as hell, and I could barely sleep properly, but. In a good way. But yeah, all very interesting. But it takes a lot of self-awareness to do this. And I think if you can sort this out, you can solve a lot of these other issues, and then everything becomes easier in your fitness journey.
I think another good thing that can help a lot though is just giving yourself some barriers or like parameters around your social media use. Because if you just say I only go on twice a day and I go on for 10 minutes at a time or whatever it is, or you have a cutoff point for sure, it stops you then just going down these rabbit holes or scrolling. You catch up on what it is. If you have any notifications, you see them or reply to message or whatever, see a few things on your feed, but it stops that going from like a 10-minute thing into a 45-minute thing when you end up on like your friend of your friend of your friend's thing on their holiday, or do you know what I mean? It's just ended up being this stupid thing. And so just having those cutoff times, I think can be massive for people. And we all know how much time you can waste on social media. If you end up just cutting it down to 2 10-minute slots a day, most people that could free up like an hour for a lot of people.
Yeah, it's like on Facebook. I only do one reason, and it's literally just the Facebook group that we have.
Family.
That's literally just go on it for that. And for Insta, most days I literally just go in, check DMs. And only with close friends and just look at close friend stuff, and that's it. But yeah, I don't really use it much from a learning perspective either. If I want to learn from someone on social media, I'll just follow on their newsletter or something like that. So then I get it directly to the inbox. Just because of that, it's just it can become open ended, right? In terms of your time, otherwise. But yeah, being intentional with it is huge. I think that's the key thing. Awesome. Any final comments? It's a wrap. No. People need to take action on this. It's a lot to implement. Let's get it done.
That's it.